right, we just landed. My mom said she's not gonna be in the video. I said she has to be in the video. She's not gonna make it all weekend without being in the video. So we just landed in Hartford and we're gonna go meet Amanda, who is the one who coordinated all of this. And so we're gonna go meet her for the first time. Well, we are back from Connecticut and we had a really great time. I did not do a super good job of vlogging about it or taking video throughout the weekend, but I did want to share some of the highlights, tell you how the presentation went, and thank everyone that we had the pleasure of meeting this past weekend. And so we landed Friday night. We met our sweet host who wishes to remain anonymous, but she was so kind and generous and she drove us around all weekend, and so that was really fun. My mom came with and we had never been to that part of the East Coast before, so it was fun to get to see a different part of the country. You know, we were leaving snow in Minnesota, so that felt good to leave that behind. And so the first night, you know, we didn't get until 7, so the time we got to the hotel and got checked in, and then we just had dinner and got to bed that night. And then Saturday morning came bright and early. We left the hotel around 7 to get over to the church that was hosting the conference, and they had it set up so beautifully. Everything about the conference was so well done, and so that was really fun. And I was actually the last speaker of the day, so there were 6 other speakers that day, and it was phenomenal. They were all, I mean, they all had their like doctorate from Yale and Harvard, and so I was starting to feel a little bit outleagued, to be honest with you. And I'm thinking in my head, like, do I need to make adjustments to my presentation? You know, but it does turn out that everybody struggles with clutter. Like my sister and I were joking, like they probably just have more like sophisticated clutter, but really everybody, you know, does struggle with clutter. But one of the presentations early in the morning was about technology and our kids, and it was so good. And I hope to share more about that a little bit later on. So Cliff, he actually is part of the Yale School of Medicine, and he was just talking about some of the impacts that technology is having on our kids, which we know, but it's good to hear about it again. But also one statistic that has just been sticking with me, he said that 54% of teens said that if their parents knew what was going on with their phones and on social media, that they wouldn't let them have it. And I'm like, 54%, that was kind of shocking to me. I mean, our kids aren't quite old enough to have cell phones yet. Not that they haven't asked for them, right? But it did kind of reinforce in me that if you do have teenagers with cell phones, we do have to find ways to stay on top of it and to keep an eye on what it is that they're looking at and who they're talking to and what's being asked of them. And so it kind of reinforced that. But like I said, I'll hope to share a little bit more about that in the coming weeks. And so then we had lunch, and it was really fun just getting to visit with everyone there and the other presenters. A presentation on like healthy relationships, healthy marriage relationships was really interesting too. Talking about anxiety and depression and how important getting enough sleep and getting exercise is, which is like, we know these things, right? We know. So I think in a way it was kind of good having this presentation on simplifying life at the end, because we've definitely found that as we've simplified our house, we feel like we've kind of taken our life back, and a lot of these things just start to work themselves out, of being able to get to bed on time and, you know, not being on our phone before bed so we get a good night's sleep, and just having more activity built into our days and eating a little bit healthier. And so it was kind of good just to be able to feel like I had a little bit of an answer to these problems of like, wow, as we've simplified our house, we just feel that we really made a lot of progress in these other areas as well. So that was good. And so I think my presentation went pretty well.
I was looking back on it and I was like, wow, I feel like we were able to reap the benefits of lots of work, but through a very simplified process, because every day we were just picking out those high impact items and we were applying them, and we didn't have to sacrifice our family time, we didn't have to sacrifice our family vacations, we didn't have to pacify our kids with screens. It was a really tangible way to see, you know, our efforts of simplifying our house start to pay off.
There is a recording of it. I'm not sure how good the audio is going to be, because even these clips that I have of it, the audio, it just didn't come across super great. So if we can share it, I will. Otherwise, I'll just re-record it, because I'd love to redo it anyways. And so I said a lot of times. I noticed that when I was listening back to the couple clips that I had, that I said a lot. But other than that, I think it went pretty well. I think it was just kind of a good time of reflection as well as I was preparing for it, to look back and to realize, you know, that we started minimalism as just like a tactic to keep our house more clean so I could stay on top of the house, but how it has affected really every area of our life, from our parenting to our marriage relationship to our finances to our health, and to, you know, and then we also apply it to our spirituality. Like, I think we're all meant, no matter what your spiritual or faith background is or isn't, that we all do have this innate desire to think about those things and to ponder them, and to, you know, to wonder, why am I here, and what impact would I like to be able to make regardless of what my faith belief is? What do I want to be known for? What do I want my kids to know me for? What do I want to instill in them or other people around me? How do I want them to think of me? How can I be my best self and not always feel like I'm, you know, a day late and a dollar short? And so it was really cool just getting to kind of look back over the last 5 years and be able to see what a huge impact simplifying our life has had. And even just to think back too, it was just a little bit over a year ago that I was sitting on this couch recording my very first video talking about simplifying kids' clothes on my cell phone. You know, my mom had the kids, and so I had a few minutes to like record a video, and I'd been putting it off. I'm like, nope, just do it, just make a video, and kind of getting over that hurdle of, you know, worrying about like, what are people gonna think? Is anybody even gonna be interested in this topic? I remember I had a pillow next to me on the couch, and like someone left a comment of, well, I don't think minimalists have throw pillows, you know? And I'm like, oh no, like what am I getting myself into? Like this scrutiny and this judgment and all of that. But it's actually been the opposite, because you all have been so wonderful and so supportive, and I do realize how much we all need this information, and that I wish it would have been available when I was simplifying my house, which actually leads us then to the highlight for sure of the entire trip. Was just getting to meet up with some of you at Panera after the conference. And so it was so fun just to get to meet you, to see you. Every single person as they came and said, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, I know. That's awesome though. Like, I want you to feel like you know me. Like, that's the best compliment that anyone could give. And so I think what was so fun, you know, everyone who got together, we had different age kids. Some had kids, didn't have kids, out of the house, in the house. But I think the kind of the common bond we all shared is sometimes having those feelings of insecurity of, but what if I get rid of this and I really did need it? What if I have to buy it again? What if I'm being wasteful? And I know, I remember that insecurity at times as well. And we all deal with it. We all go through it. You know, we look at some people and we're like, well, why is it so easy for them to throw away things? Or even, you know, certain people in our family, well, why can they get rid of things so easily? Or why can't they? You know, and that we really all have our own process, and it does take time, but it's so worthwhile, because as you go through it and you get further along in the journey, you just gain this confidence and it gets easier. And so it was fun for some of the women that were further in the process to, you know, be able to share like, no, it's so good, and it does get better and it gets easier and it's so worthwhile. I've never met anyone that said, oh, I simplified my house and now I dislike my house, right? Like, that never happens. And so that was really fun. Just to get to kind of hear everybody's stories and get to spend a little bit of time together. I wish we could have like support groups in every area where you live, right? Because I think it would make the process easier. So that was really fun. And so I'm excited to do more events like that, because it was so cool. And I think everyone left feeling encouraged and feeling like they're definitely not alone. And so then the next day we went to church at the church that hosted us, which was really fun. And so the church was actually right by the Yale campus. So we went and walked around the Yale campus. My mom was, you know, she was talking about like, oh, this is where Rory from Gilmore Girls went and all that. You know, she's like, look around Gilmore Girls. And so we walked around and we had lunch by the campus. And then we had to find something. Of course, you know, my mom wanted to get something for the kids to bring back for them. And it turns out that Pez is made in Connecticut, not far from where we were. And so we stopped by the Pez factory and we got the kids Pez dispensers. And so that was fun to get to bring them back something as well. And so it was such a great trip. The weather was great. It was, you know, it's always fun to get away for a couple of days. And then thank you so much to everyone who have said kind words and encouraging words. I mean, this was This was for sure outside of my comfort zone, definitely, like way outside of my comfort zone to get to speak at an event like this. But like I said, I'll either share the recording from the event or I'll just re-record it and share that with you coming up here. And I think we'll definitely probably retouch on kids clothes because it's been a year now since we've talked about that. So we'll probably talk about that coming up. But also, you know, be sure to leave comments with, you know, what kind of things you're coming across and struggling with right now, because I'd love to tackle those topics as well. So thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about this whole experience. I really appreciate it. And I'd love it if you subscribe if you haven't, so that we can keep in touch. A thumbs up is always the best compliment that you can give us. And I'll look forward to visiting with you again really soon.